excited and so happy that we are here today, gathered in Cape May, to celebrate in honor of the opening of the Harriet Tubman Museum and celebration of Juneteenth. In Whitesboro, from 1 to 6 today, the Cape May County NAACP will be hosting its second annual Juneteenth festivities, and that is on Main Street in Whitesboro. That day will be full of family activities, kid activities. There's vendors, there's food. The food there for the kids will be free. And we just hope that everyone can come out and celebrate with us at the conclusion of this. So that'll be from 1 to 6 in Whitesboro at the Martin Luther King Center on Main Street. And at 6 o'clock, if the rain holds out, we will have a basketball tournament. So we're looking forward to that and hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinna. And truly, we are proud of her because we remember her so very in her childhood and just watch her grow and bloom and move to that space of leadership. And we know leadership is never an easy road, but she's one of the, what I call the youngins, but I know that she might not look at that way, that's taken on that mantle and taken on that responsibility. And you know, she stands proud of it. And I'm immensely proud of the work that she's done with Cape May County NAACP. So now we have a really special presentation. With it is a really, I guess, very unique event. But before I go into that unique event, I want to first give you a little history on this event. And it connects to the military, the Civil War. So just bear with me as I give you just a little background. And then we will have a regiment of soldiers who will come in and do a beautiful presentation of a historic flag to some of the descendants that are in Cape May. So we're really honored today because we have reenactors of the 22nd Regiment of the U.S. Colored Troops. This probably wouldn't have been possible without the extremely dedicated research done by Mrs. Barbara Dreyfus. I'm not sure where she is. She's out there somewhere. A lot of probably, this is Miss Emily Dempsey. That's the go-to person for the history. And so what they sort of are bringing to light is that when President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, and it's clear then that the Civil War was being fought to end slavery. And it also opened up the opportunity for African-American men to fight in the army to free their families and friends. And at that point, there were about 180,000 Black men in the Union. There were more than 30 soldiers, members called the U.S. Colored Troops. And many lie at rest in the Union Bethel Cemetery. That's on Tabernacle Road. If you don't have a chance, or if you have a moment, visit it. It is really very unique, although you have to kind of find it. And some are in Mount Zion Cemetery. So they too, just for a historical moment to walk through and see those grave sites. More than a third of these soldiers came from Cape May, but what is really significant is that they fought bravely, the U.S. Colored Troops, at Petersburg and Richmond, Virginia. They actually led their Union forces to the capital of the Confederacy in Richmond, when it was captured. They were in Richmond when President Lincoln came a few days later to see that victory. Of course, less than 2 weeks later, President Lincoln was assassinated. But that 22nd Regiment was asked to be the honor guard accompanying Lincoln's coffin to the train. They were also ordered, the same regiment, to find his killer. So that same 22nd Regiment was sent to Maryland's Eastern Shore, where many of their descendants have been slaves, to search for John Wilkes Booth. But today, we are proud to have actual descendants on stage, and we'll have them come up, and some men who are reacting it from Cape May who fought in that 22nd. One was Charles S. Bowes, a direct descendant to Miss Emily Dempsey, and his gravesite lies at Union Bethel Cemetery. Again, it's about 6 miles away. In today's program, family of the descendants will receive a 22nd Regiment, and reenactors will be presenting that flag to the family. Then Miss Emily is gracious enough to have the flag be flown in the Harriet Tubman Museum. So I'm going to ask that the regiment begin its movement forward. I'm not sure where they are, but if we can bring them forward. Yes. Of the U.S. troops. Yes.
I just wanted to take a second to acknowledge something that I learned yesterday while at the Harriet Tubman Museum, which is that back in the early 1900s, 30% of the population in Cape May, African Americans made up. And today we're 3%. I didn't want to leave today without acknowledging and honoring those African American families. And I'll read off some of the names. I probably will miss someone. Anderson, Vassar, Wise, Nash, Elliott, Capehart, Jones, Johnson, Freeman, Washington, Bowes, Edgecombe, Dempsey, Cruz, Coleman, Langford, Hawkins, Seeney, Carter, Harris, Hickman, Simmons, Lugo, Green, King, Matthews, Hebron, Knight, Burton, Wing, Molson, Vance, Taylor, Wright, Gray, Norris, Harmon, Reed, Butler, Hazel, Battle, Major, Hicks, Arrington, Jackson, James, Reyes, Moore, Parker, Hunt, Lewis, Jarman, Brooks, Bell, Faison, Boatwright, Bird, Lee, Potter, Huff, Richardson, Height, King, Harrell, Carpenters, Boyce, Smith, Oxendine, Valentine, Miller, Tatum, Bryant, Gordon, Thompson, Bryce, Allen, Dorsey, Jennifer, Mabry, Thompson, Ferguson, Bourne, Davis, Gaines, Allison, Lynch, Middleton, Wilmore, Kuntz, Curry, Russell, Duggar, Tucker, Gaines, Lisby, Atkinson, Scott, Robinson, Porto, Cox, Wakefield, Annest, Walter, Berkeley, Huff, Bryant, Tyree, Frills, Hampton, Dickerson, Trulier, Tranks, Beeman, Hargat, and White. Thank you.
Our soldiers in the reenactment. Please. Now we'll have Miss Emily Dempsey, also surrounded by her family, to come forward on behalf of the descendants of Charles Bowes, one of the original African American soldiers in the 20th.
Present this flag to you from the grateful nation of God bless you. I'd like to thank the representatives from the Harriet Tubman Museum for helping to have this present historic. I just cannot tell you how this makes me feel to have our family represented this way. It started just from a little piece of paper sent to me by my cousin in Ewing Township showing a registration of a grave site. And that was passed on to Barbara Dwight, and she, with her investigative ways, our great-great-grandfather was part of this 22nd years. But I would like to thank also the Center for Community Arts History Group, 28 years, the longest running committee in the Center for Community Arts. Over 28 years, we've documented history, we've recorded the history with the Harriet Tubman Museum with artifacts and photographs. And there's so many people connected with making this a success. But while I still have this platform, I was asked to say a couple words about the Allen Abbey Church. 2 years ago, our church, the Allen Abbey Church, the church I was raised in on Franklin Street in Cape May, was raised by fire. It sat, and finally the conference sold the church to the city of Cape May. It sat and sat. Finally, Mayor Mullet came into office and he hit the ground running. And within months, he put a roof on that building. If you go past there now, all the siding is off, revealing the beautiful siding. Foundation will be refurbished, strengthened, and the church will be brought back to the way it looked in 1929. But I'd like to thank Mayor Mullet for his not letting the pigeons and the moisture get in that building. There's just so many people to thank, and I can't thank them all. But this is a blessed day. And Mayor Zach, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cynthia Mullock, the volunteer executive director of the Harriet Tubman Museum of New Jersey. Thank you so much for being here on this beautiful Juneteenth National Independence Day. Let's have a round of applause for our new national holiday. Two and a half years ago, we planned to have our grand opening on Juneteenth, but we expected that to be Juneteenth 2020. So many in this year, but we've had so much support through challenging times. And this museum has been a beautiful example of how a community can learn to live in connection with one another, can learn to live in community with untold history, preserve and share our commonalities and our differences together. That community, we have had so much support from such an extensive audience here now. It's so exciting. But I would be remiss if I didn't thank the state of New Jersey for all of its support through Governor Murphy, through Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, through Secretary of State Tahisha Way, and all of the many organizations, the New Jersey Historic Commission, the New Jersey State Council of the Arts, and especially our partners at Cape May County. And Commissioner Director Thornton is here, and so we would love to give a round of applause for all of the work that he's done and his team has done in the tourism office, supporting history, arts, and culture. Thank you so much. Which is the Macedonia Baptist Church. If you know, please. The Macedonia Baptist Church, we've worked in partnership between the Harriet Tubman Museum and the Macedonia Baptist Church. This museum would not be without the church and its community. The museum is housed in Howell House, the historic parsonage of the Macedonia Baptist Church, which in 2012 was named one of the most endangered places in the state of New Jersey, one of the top 10 most endangered historic sites in the state of New Jersey, New Jersey magazine. And this group, all of you have turned that around in 2.5 years of effort and your skill and your talents that you've brought to this project to make it one of the top 10 most anticipated museums in the world by Smithsonian Magazine, and also ranked number 5 best new museum in the country by USA Today Reader's Choice Awards, 10 best. Thank you so much. We call it the small museum with a big story, and all of you are part of that big story. Thank you for letting me be a part of that big story. Another one of our most gracious partners is the Davis family. And Carolyn Davis, Mrs. Carolyn Davis, is here today. The Davis family was the last family to live in the Howell House, which now houses the Harriet Tubman Museum. And maybe Mrs. Davis can come up. Her husband led the church for 47 years, but not only did he lead the church, he was a pillar of the community. One of the Cape May that institution responsible for so much of the efforts in creating Cape May as a national historic landmark by the pastor in Howell House. And for 47 years, he was a passionate educator, leader of the community, leader of the choir, and it's such a blessing that he collected so many artifacts along with Miss Davis. And we've been through that collection, and many of those artifacts are forms our exhibits at the Harriet Tubman Museum. So for all of the very dedicated service of Mrs. Davis, both in helping us form our collections and also serving on the historic committee and in managing the interpretation of those collections, we are so grateful to you. Thank you, Mrs. Davis.
And we have for her a plaque that says, with our deepest appreciation, presented to Mrs. Carolyn King Davis for your unwavering support and your continuous contributions to the Harriet Tubman Museum, Cape May. Thank you from the Harriet Tubman Museum Trustees, June 19, 2021.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Mullock and his team for a job well done. And thank Mrs. Towns for inviting me to showcase my husband's artifacts at the museum. She was the first and only one to come to me and ask me if I would do that job. But I was very pleased because he would have loved that, loved this, really. You know, he loved to talk. So this would just be right along his lines. He was very passionate about his collection. He loved to share. And before he became ill, he kept Black history alive by sharing at the schools, mainly the Lower Township schools, elementary, middle, and high schools. He often spoke at the organizations, women's community clubs around town. And for 45 years, he was the conductor, organizer, and conductor of the Macedonia Singers Choir at Convention Hall. So he really proud to know that his art is still being shared in this community that he loved so. And Linda and Cynthia, the whole team, to work with you. I say patience, I had it this time. But I really enjoyed working with you and to try to make it the success that it is. Thank you.
Beautiful. Mrs. Davis is just amazingly patient. I think that as we talk about our connections to Macedonia Baptist Church, I do believe our pastor, Reverend Harold Harris, is here. If he is here, Reverend Harris, if you would just raise your hand. Deacon Anderson had the prayer for you covered. I know that was well, but he is again, our minister and our pastor at Macedonia Baptist Church. That partnership with the Harriet Tubman Museum is essential. And truly, as one of its deacons, spiritual core, and that is the church. And its still overall design is to lift up, build membership. It is just remiss to believe, as a teacher, you can never assume there's always knowledge, because sometimes there isn't. So we always try to take a space just to talk about the meaning and history of Juneteenth. I'm really excited to share one of my fellow teaching colleagues and probably one of the best teachers I've ever seen in the classroom. His name is Mr. Teddy Bryan. And what I think is great about him is that he was nominated by the students of New Jersey as one of the best teachers in our state. That said something to me. Mr. Teddy Bryan taught African American history. Sometimes we partnered. I taught African American literature and he did the history. And, children were spellbound. And, both of us are kind of storytellers. So please welcome Mr. Teddy Bryan as he shares the history of Juneteenth. He really is the greatest.
I have to thank Mrs. Towns for that very generous introduction. And I have a question for Mrs. Towns too. How did you get Juneteenth to become a federal holiday to conform to this? It's a great thing. This is a great day for the city of Cape May. It is a great day for Cape May County, state of New Jersey, and beyond. I'm just very excited. I can feel the excitement in the air. I've been asked to speak briefly about the history and the meaning of Juneteenth. What is Juneteenth? It has been called Emancipation Day, Freedom Day, Liberation Day, the Day of Jubilee. Many would say that Juneteenth is as important of a holiday as is the 4th of July because that is the day that represents the historic moment when all Americans knew that they were free. When I was in school, I learned that Abraham Lincoln Proclamation ended slavery. Later, I realized that that proclamation was the beginning of the end of slavery. One, that proclamation stated that we're not covered by that proclamation. The second thing, that proclamation was issued on January the 1st, 1863. On January, there were celebrations all over the country at that time, but on January the 2nd, 1863, nothing really had changed yet. Because in order for that proclamation to have meaning, the Civil War had yet to be won. So, freedom would actually come at different times to different places. By April the 9th, 1865, the main army of the Confederacy surrendered. And by that point in time, most of the persons held in slavery now knew that they were free. So what happened on June the 19th, 1865? General Gordon Granger announced to the citizens of Texas on that day that the war was over and slavery had been abolished. He also declared that the black race from this point on would have the same rights as the white race. Now, because of the location, this would be the first time that almost 180,000 black people held in slavery would know that they were free. As word spread, spontaneous celebrations broke out all over Texas. 1 year later, by 1866, that date was a holiday for Black America. Juneteenth matters. For Black America, it is an opportunity to acknowledge our strength, our solidarity, and our culture. America, Juneteenth matters. It is a time to renew our commitment to the struggle for equality continues up to this day. Juneteenth has always been and is today a joyous holiday. It is a time for families, friends, and communities to come together. It is known for good food, for good music of this day. In 19, Christina Kay was entitled We Rose. It is one of many poems that are considered to be official poems of the Juneteenth holiday. I would like to end by reading this poem to you. We rose. From Africa's heart, we rose. Already a people, our faces ebon, our bodies lean. We must, we did. We rose. We rose to be you. We rose to be me. Above everything expected, we rose. To become the knowledge we never knew. Have a great Juneteenth and an opening of the Harriet Tubman Museum.
That you can always call on, and they're just, they never say no. They're always willing to work with you. Mr. Brian is one of those personalities that I can always pick up the phone. I may not have heard from him for a month. And just, again, sharing the knowledge. He truly is a treasure and a gem to Cape May County. And to have such a strong movement to preserve history. But we couldn't do that without very, very dedicated people who really look to hold things in place for great stories. One of them is the head of the Historic Preservation of Cape May, New Jersey, Mr. Tom Carroll. I see him many places, but what I know is that he's always behind the scenes working to make sure that Cape May really does keep as much as it can of its character, of its strength, and really of historical beauty. Would you welcome Mr. Tom Carroll? I'm just going to say a couple of things. Again, partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, for those kind words. As president of this not-for-profit organization in Cape May called Cape May Mac, I asked if I could say a few words on behalf of all the other organizations out there that I know deep in their hearts are so pleased with the work that's going on with the creation of the Harriet Tubman Museum and mentioned Juneteenth. I just want to tell you a little bit about the character of Cape May. You know, towns that are sort of at the end of the line get a unique audience of people that want to visit them, live there, play there, work there. I'm thinking of places like Key West, Provincetown, Bar Harbor. You know, you go there and it ends. And that's kind of like what we feel here. You know, there is a ferry that'll take you away from here, but not many people use that. So we really have a wonderful collection of people that have for years really cared for this community. And I just want to highlight some of the things that it's a wood hangar and World War II airplanes out the Wildwood Naval Air Station. Destroyed. Things like the Physic Estate, numerous so as it can. And believe me, we love people that come here. So I do really appreciate you not only be here today for this, but also to get to know Cape May just a little bit better. And I would like to highlight one of the projects that was more recent. An organization called the Fund for Cape May decided to get involved when this park needed a major redo. And we did raise $558,000 of donated money to go on top of city money that took care of infrastructure on it. And the many items that you see in this park, and I hope we're enjoying, are things that came out of the research that we did. My wife and I, we could New York to find the most comfortable ones and came up with all the ones that you see around here, which many citizens then bought to put their names on them. The fence that goes around the building, been famous for restoration of many of the finest fountains in America. But this bandstand that I'm standing under out of the rain, thank you very much, has kind of a story to it. Now, many people use the internet to search for things like dates and anything they want to buy. We went search the internet, found, put it in a container, and ship it to us for reassembly here. So what you're seeing came from the idea we wanted it low so you all can see what's going on the stage. You remember the old one had a high fence around it. We wanted to face it down the park in perfect alignment with the fountain and the flag at the far end. And we wanted the onion-shaped dome on the top to be similar to the dome that you see on our little former chapel across the street. So what a great success. And I really want to also just add that all of us are so pleased with this restoration that has gone on with the Harriet Tubman Museum. I think if you had seen that building a few years back, you would have agreed with 85% of Cape May that it would never make it. It was beyond restoration. Many buildings in Cape May have made it beyond restoration, and many more will, I think, as we go on. But we wish all the best to the Harriet Tubman Museum. And we really thank all of you for being here today to help bring our community back together and join us for this wonderful celebration. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tom. Surrounded by incredible historic preservationists, and this is such an important project to historic preservation, preserving the spaces that were dilapidated, and the Harriet Tubman Museum's efforts have really kicked off a regeneration of the spaces that are very important to the historic Black community in Cape May. On the corner of the Harriet Tubman Museum, you have the Franklin Street School behind that is being restored. You have across the street the Stephen Smith House that's being restored. You have the AME Church that's being restored. And we are very blessed to work in partnership in a preservation leadership training with the National Trust for Historic Preservation, as well as the Smithsonian's NAMAC, the National Museum of African American History and Culture. We're so grateful for the leadership of those institutions in helping us with organization, board building, development. So it's been really an incredible thing to see so many people come and support this institution. One of the people who was most integral, before he became mayor, he sat on the Historic Preservation Commission, and he guided the site of the restoration process along with so many volunteers. So I'd like to invite Zach up, and I'd also like to invite Chief of Police Deacon Fashaw.
Thank you all very much. Martin Luther King Jr. said, and this is on the bottom of all work and the efforts of dedicated individuals. He said that in a speech here in KA. It is dedicated individuals and volunteers who work tirelessly to build the Harriet Tubman Museum. The museum will preserve and teach a history that has long been neglected. As was stated about that day in 1865, this day in 1865, when the Union soldiers declared all the slaves free in Texas. That was a full 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. It was only with that knowledge that people understood that they were no longer slaves. No one had told them. It was only with that knowledge that they knew that they were free. Fred, knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. Within the last few months, the city of Cape May has again purchased the unanimously approved the building plan for the Franklin Street School Library project. That was a major milestone in making sure that that happens. It was unanimously approved. And I would like to mention, we have a student, at least one, that went to the Franklin Street School, right, Emily? That's right. And for those of you who don't know, that school was segregated. It was purposely designed to be two buildings matched together in one. The plans that were just approved by the state removes the wall that separated people based on the color of their skin. It will bring the community together in fellowship to learn and to gain knowledge. May City Police Chief Deacon Fashaw. Chief Fashaw is a testament to our community's commitment to one another. He's dedicated his life to the Cape May community. Chief Fashaw has instituted real community-centered policing, while Cape May has always had a very good working relationship between the community and our police.
Jubilee Day, Liberation Day, Emancipation Day, and today, a national holiday. For some, this date will simply mean just another paid holiday. However, for many of us, this day is as important as it is. The importance of this day and the women like Opal Lee, whose dream was made a promise this last Thursday when Congress allowed the president to fully enact this day as a national holiday. Through her 94 years of life and her activism, She ensured that people understand that Juneteenth is not a festival. Moreover, it should be a unifier. She explained that the slaves did not free themselves. It took all kinds of people, Quakers, abolitionists, brave men and women, to get the slaves free. Women like Sojourner Truth, who escaped to gain her freedom in 1826. A true human rights crusader who fought for her women's rights and the equality thereof. Ida B. Wells, who also was an activist in the civil rights movement and one of the founders of the NAACP. I'm saying these names because they're important. When we say their name, these names are also important. Finally, and the reason we're all here today, Miss Harriet Tubman, the conductor of the Underground Railroad. And here in front of you today, not only as a man of color, but a police chief, an accomplishment that would not have been possible without blood, sweat, and tears of the women, along with of the many freedom fighters of this country. We were set free in 1863, and just like mentioned earlier, however, many of us did not know until 1865, probably the longest 2 years of their lives. Could you imagine not knowing something as important as your freedom for 2 years? I want to thank all the people involved in making this historic day, the amazing museum we're about to see here. The City of Cape May, Mayor Mullock and the Mullock family, Bob, you're in the crowd, Cynthia to my left, Miss Linda Towns, Ampy Taylor, I see you down there, all the historians, the Macedonia Baptist Church, Pastor Harris in the back there. You brought along some friends with you, Pastor Harris. I believe that's the motorcycles we see running in here. That's a freedom group, the Freedom Night. Moreover, the Dempsey family, the true historian of our towns, West Cape May and Cape May, including Cape May Point. If you don't know it, she does. I was raised mostly by women. My mother is one, my grandmother is the other. In this crowd, I see Bernice Gordon. Let me correct you, Isabel Gordon. Her mother, Miss Bernice Gordon, was one of the women mentors in my life. I would not be the man I am today without that woman standing right there, Isabel Gordon. I love you. If I've forgotten anyone, I apologize. There are several people in this crowd, from retired police officers to my manager Hall, several council members. Everyone here is important. All of you are important. Please remember that. Mr. Victor Faison and his sister right next to me here, very important people. I'll get to them in a minute. This grand opening culminates years of hard work and dedication to honor a woman who not many of us knew. None of us knew her. Who traveled through Cape May, lived and worked here, earned money to continue her courageous journey of freedom. The highlights of the museum will show you the significance of Cape May and how this community played an important role in the Underground Railroad over the years, as well as the countless souls that were set free at the hands and strength of Miss Harriet Tubman. COVID-19, in some ways, was a blessing in disguise, allowing the museum's team of historians and dedicated staff to make a finished product that is much better. You will witness an amazing museum and a true heartfelt feeling as you travel room to room, gaining an experience unfathomable until you read and take in the artifacts and sculptures that have been meticulously laid out and carefully understand this journey of freedom, one of which will not be forgotten is encased in the city of Cape May. It is my honor to be a part of today and a part of this community and the people that made this day come true. My mother, Anita, has always told me, son, you're only as strong as your mind will carry you. Believe in yourself, protect your family and friends, loved ones who love you and support you. And those who may not understand you, try to support them as well. They may be weak, but you're stronger to make them stronger. My stepfather, Richard, he taught me that respect is earned and not given. Miss Harriet Tubman has earned that respect as her legacy and her memories live on here in Cape May, a place that I'm proud to call my home. I will leave you with a few quotes and statements from the education and reading that I've done about Miss Tubman's lifetime. Miss Tubman was noted to have said, and I quote, "If you hear the dogs, keep going. Keep going. If there's something or someone keep going. He also said, I was the conductor of the Underground Railroad for many years, and I can say that what most conductors cannot say. My train off the tracks, and I never lost a passenger. She also said, I had crossed the line, I was free, but there was no one there to welcome me to a land of freedom. I was a stranger in a strange land. I would be remiss today if I did not mention a family friend, Miss Alexis Faison. Her father is standing to my right here. She helped me prepare for today's events. She's a young woman. I'm 46 years old. Victor, how old is she? She's 19. These are her words to me. She said, a dream starts with an idea, it leads with a pursuit. You, Deacon, do not rely on your own motivation, but you must physically work toward making a dream come true. To get to your position as chief today was because of your willpower. Now, your job is to encompass, help. She also noted that most citizens don't realize this island is a well-oiled machine that only functions when everyone plays their integral parts. She instructed me, Chief, play your part, do it well. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you. In closing, I am where I am because of the bridges. The truth was a bridge. Ida B. Wells was a bridge. Harriet Tubman was a bridge. I will now be that bridge for my family, my son DJ, my daughter Kendra, and the officers that I stand beside to lead and protect this community. May God bless you, and thank you for the opportunity to stand.
Now I'd like to share a little bit about the Tubman Museum, both the future of what the museum's exhibits, and also the future generations that are going to support the effort of the museum and learn from the museum. And so I'm excited to introduce Daryl Edmonds with Friday is Tie Day. Daryl is the executive director of Friday is Tie Day and works with students of color in high school throughout South Jersey, mentoring them in STEM, preparing them for success, helping them with college applications, and helping boost them on their way. And many of those mentees are going to be working with the museum to develop our virtual programming and our museum app. That'll be a tour of the museum that you can use within the facility of the museum around the world. So we can share these important stories and this history all throughout the state of New Jersey and its educational institutions, all the country and all through the world. So we're so excited to work with Friday is Tie Day, to work with Daryl and his mentees, and to share these stories throughout the world. Thanks so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. You said reality. And from locals and from young people that will be telling the stories that are so important for us to preserve in the museum. What the app will also allow us to do is to create a travel museum that we can send out to schools and folks all over the world so that what you get here in Cape May will be transferable. We teach these skills to high schools across the state. Friday's Tie Day is much like its namesake. We work with young men, and part of our signature is wearing ties to school on Friday. So some of you may have seen just this last Friday, we brought our first group in from Middle Township High School. So we far east of the is a Camden Catholic High School. This past Sunday, we had our annual day where we worked with students to help them get their custom ties. We announced our seniors who will be attending colleges across the country, prestigious colleges like Morehouse, Howard University, University of Dayton, University of Pennsylvania. And these young men are excited to get to work with the museum to build this amazing experience. So to contribute to that, I have a gift on behalf of Friday is Tie Day to the museum. This piece was done by artist W. Ellington Felting out of Washington, D.C. He's referred to as the Sammy Davis Jr. of hip hop. So he raps, he paints, he acts, he does all things art related, amazing, talented artist. And this piece was done by him, and we want to donate this piece on behalf of Friday is Tie Day to the Harriet Tubman Museum.
so great now because we've sat for a long time and listened to a lot of great information, but now we get to have some entertainment. And this is a wonderful moment because this group, the Pan-African Rhythm Cooperative, as I look at them, I know they're also within our community, has been in our community for many years, working with African rhythms, African dance, led by Reggie Anderson, Muriel Anderson. I mean, they have been in African dance for a long, long time. They've even connected when Kate May used to do Kwanzaa. If you remember that, Muriel, I know you do. We had Kwanzaa groups, we did African dance, drumming. Some of the drummers in Kate May began their drumming with Reggie and Jeff. And so their roots are so connected to us. We've been incredibly proud of them, African rhythm dance. Welcome them, please.
Won't be long, freedom, freedom come, oh no, won't be long, freedom, freedom come, oh Lord, won't be long, freedom, freedom come, oh Lord, won't be long, freedom.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the grand opening of Harriet Tubman Museum. We are the Pan-African Rhythm Cooperative. Today, we're going to be performing for you. We're going to do African drumming. We're going to have African dance to go along with the drumming. And we're going to try to create the idea that these formerly enslaved people, once they land on our shores of freedom, they're going to be repatriated with their culture, with their roots. They're going to be reunited with Africa. Freedom. Freedom. Hold on. Won't be long. We're going to start off with a beat titled Cuckoo. It's a traditional African beat, and it symbolizes strength, unity, fortitude, and tradition. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Bring you Cuckoo. in thousands of years. We're so proud now. Okay, this song or this particular rhythm, cuckoo, is in good times. The next rhythm we're going to play is called orchestra and a dance. It refers to the dance. So Johnny explains the things that young women have to.